What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, if you haven't heard the news, the Detroit Lions have made the first big move of this trade deadline season, as they are sending a conditional 6th round pick to the Dallas Cowboys in order to acquire edge rusher and former Pro Bowler Everson Griffen. Now, before we get into talking about this trade and what it means for the Detroit Lions and my opinions on the trade, if you are new to the channel and are enjoying this Detroit Lions content, please consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. It only takes 2 seconds out of your day and it helps the channel out more than you could know. So if you could do that, I would be greatly appreciative for it. But with that being said, let's get into talking about this trade that the Lions made yesterday to acquire veteran pass rusher and former Pro Bowler Everson Griffen. Now, as I said, the Detroit Lions sent a conditional 6th round pick to the Cowboys to acquire Everson Griffen. Now, a conditional pick means that if Everson Griffen performs, if he meets certain milestones for the Detroit Lions in the 9 games that he is eligible to play in, then it could move up to as large as a 5th round pick, so it could move up a full round depending on what Everson Griffen does accomplish for the Lions. Now, the funny thing about this trade is that defensive coordinator Corey Unlin didn't actually know the Lions were going to do this until the deal was already made. I believe he was in the middle of an interview is what the article said, and it basically the reporter was like, hey, breaking news, you guys just traded for Everson Griffen. What are your thoughts on this? Like, how do you feel? And he's like, well, that's news to me. Like, Corey Unlin didn't know that they were trading for Everson Griffen. He didn't know that they were doing that. So, I mean, that's an interesting storyline. That's kind of an interesting thing to happen, that, Bob Quinn kind of made this move under the radar and nobody knew it was going to happen except for Bob Quinn and probably Matt Patricia and Sheila Ford Hamp. Talking about what Everson Griffen has done thus far this season, Everson Griffen with the Dallas Cowboys has been okay. He has got 20 total tackles on the season, 3 tackles for loss, 6 quarterback hits, 2.5 sacks, 8 quarterback hurries, and 14 quarterback pressures, according to Pro Football Reference. Now, he definitely isn't the Everson Griffen from a few years ago. He's definitely not the Everson Griffen that's going to get you 8 sacks and a couple forced fumbles. And he's not that Everson Griffen, that reliable veteran that you can expect to come in and get 8 sacks. But I still think that he can come in and make a really big impact on the Detroit Lions. Now, we saw even on you look at those stats and you say, okay, well, that's not great, but that's not bad either. You also have to remember, the Cowboys defense has not been playing very well. The Cowboys defense is pretty bad. And, the coaching there is not very good. The defensive coordinator there, whoever's calling the defense, is not doing a very good job. And even with all the talent on that Dallas Cowboys defense with, Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch and Tank Lawrence and, formerly Everson Griffen, and, they had all this talent on the roster. They had all this talent on the defense, and it wasn't really amounting to anything. So, you could say, okay, his numbers are down. His numbers aren't looking very good. But part of that is coaching, and part of that is just the culture in Dallas that, they weren't winning anyway and nobody was playing well. I don't think any Dallas Cowboys fan is going to tell you that, DeMarcus Lawrence is a bad pass rusher. I don't think anybody's going to tell you that Jalen Smith is a bad linebacker, but all of them are playing bad and all of them are giving up a lot of yards and a lot of points every single game. So while you might look at the stats and say, okay, well, he's kind of having a down year, why would we trade for him? Part of that and most of that, in my opinion, is actually the coaching and the talent surrounding Everson Griffen and just the coaches not using him effectively enough. Another reason that his stats might be down a little bit is the fact that he only was playing in 56% of snaps for the Dallas Cowboys, a little bit over half the snaps that, he was there, he was playing on the field. So, he wasn't necessarily playing as much as he did in Minnesota, so that could also be a huge reason for the statistical drop-off. As I said, Everson Griffen with the Dallas Cowboys is not the Everson Griffen from the Minnesota Vikings, but I don't think fans are necessarily expecting that. We know that Everson Griffen is getting older. We know that Everson Griffen won't be the same player getting 8 sacks a season. We know he's not going to come here and get us 8 sacks in 9 games, but he's definitely going to come here and make some splash plays. He's definitely going to come here and get some sacks, get a lot of pressures, get some hurries, get some, he's going to get to the quarterback and make the quarterback uncomfortable more times than not. And, although he's not the same Everson Griffen that's making plays on every single snap he can, he still, even with the Dallas Cowboys, showed a lot of flash, showed a lot of heart, and showed a lot of really good things in that Dallas system, even if his numbers statistically don't necessarily look like the Everson Griffen of old. Now, personally, for me, I like this. I like this trade. Obviously, we only give up a 6th round pick, potential 5th round pick. So that if you look at that base value, that doesn't look like a lot. That doesn't seem like a lot to give up for a veteran pass rusher to come in and help really, really bolster and strengthen this defensive line that has been a weakness, and this pass rush that has been a weakness for a very long time. But I also have a couple of concerns with this trade. I also have a couple of things that I look at and I wonder, I have a couple of questions about this trade, and I have a couple questions with the logic of this trade. Now, starting with the positives, I think he's a fantastic rotational guy. I think that, I don't think he'll be a full-time pass rusher. I don't think he'll be on the line every single play. I would expect to see a very similar thing to Dallas, where, he plays in 55-60% of defensive snaps, rotates in with Trey Flowers and Romeo Okwara, and they get that good rotation of pass rushers going so that everybody's healthy, everybody's, got energy to rush the passer. I like him as a rotational guy. I think he will come in and have a lot of impact on this team early, or at least, I think he'll have a lot of impact on this team throughout the rest of the season. I also think that, obviously the Lions, as I said, needed some help in the pass rush department. They were one of the bottom pass rush teams in the NFL in the first 6 games of the NFL season. I think they only have 7 sacks on the season as a whole, 7 or 8, which is bottom in the NFL. So adding another pass rusher, especially one that already has 2.5 sacks, 8 hurries, and 14 quarterback pressures this year, it's not a bad stat line to add a dude like that for just a 6th round selection. Now, my negatives and my, kind of question marks with this trade are, my big negative for this is why, if the Lions wanted Everson Griffen, why didn't they just sign him in free agency, right? If you wanted a guy in Everson Griffen, if you wanted to bolster that pass rush already, why wait for the Dallas Cowboys to sign him and then, give up a pick to acquire him? Why not just go out in free agency and pay him a little bit more money? Because we know we had the cap space. I think right now, even with that extra $3 million in the cap for Everson Griffen, we're still at like $15 million on the season. So we had the money to go out and pay Everson Griffen. And I know somebody's going to say, oh, well, it's free agency. He had his choice. Maybe he didn't want to come to Detroit, or maybe the Detroit Lions or maybe the Cowboys just offered him a better deal. If the Lions wanted Everson Griffen here, he would have been here. The Lions had the money. They could have paid Everson Griffen more than the Dallas Cowboys. They had the ability, and if they truly wanted Everson Griffen here, they should have just paid him in free agency and let him play for the entirety of the 16-game season for the Detroit Lions. But instead, he goes to the Cowboys, he underperforms, and we have to give up a 6th round pick and still pay him that money to have him for only 9 games instead of the full 16. So that's my big concern. That's my big negative of it is, if we really wanted Everson Griffen, if Bob Quinn really wanted Everson Griffen to be here, he should have just signed him in free agency. We could have done it. We had the money, and, I know that at the end of the day, Everson Griffen had the choice to go to Dallas, but zeros speak a lot. Zeros on the paycheck speak very, very loudly. And if Bob Quinn wanted Everson Griffen here in free agency, he would have been here. And I think that, at this point, it would have been the better move because we are not spending that money right now anyway, and we would have had an extra pick if we had just, signed Everson Griffen before the season. My second concern, you might say, okay, well, it's only a 6th round pick. Why is that a big deal? The Lions currently only have 5 picks in the NFL draft. I believe they have their 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. They are missing their 6th and their 7th round picks from this year's draft. So they only have 5 picks going into this NFL draft. And, with this team, especially with the coach being on the hot seat, especially with the chance of a new regime coming in, they're going to want more draft capital. They're going to want more, ability to draft the players that they want. They're going to want more draft capital for next year's draft. And, I understand why the Lions are trading away assets, right? If you're Matt Patricia, why do you care about next year's picks when you're probably not going to be here next year unless you make the playoffs? And if you feel the only way to make the playoffs is to trade for Everson Griffen, then I understand, and I understand why you're making the trade, but only leaving yourself with 5 draft picks for an NFL draft is not a lot. And we know that Bob Quinn and, Matt Patricia have been pretty decent at drafting in the late rounds in recent years. So, you might say, yeah, it's a 6th round pick, who cares? But again, it could move up to a 5th, and we know Bob Quinn is pretty good at drafting in the 5th round, or at least in the late rounds. It's an extra pick that we didn't have to give up. If we wanted Everson Griffen, we could have just had him here. And again, I'm mixed, right? I like the pick, I like the player, I like the talent. My thinking is, if we wanted Everson Griffen here so bad, why didn't we just sign him out of free agency? And you might say, oh, well, Bob Quinn wanted to see what he had in his guys before he went out and signed a Everson Griffen to a larger contract. But, at that point, why not just bring Everson in? Why not give him a chance? And if you want to say, oh, we got to see what our guys got, what is the harm in bringing in an extra veteran pass rusher that averaged 8 sacks a season before 2020? Right? We had the cap space that we're currently not spending on anybody. We had the ability, we had the roster spots, we have the space, we have the cap money. We need the talent, obviously, and defensive line is never going to hurt. A depth of defensive lineman, more defensive line competition is never going to hurt a team. So my only negative is what could have been, I guess. I don't necessarily mind the trade. In fact, I like the trade. I like that the Lions are being aggressive. I like that they're going out and getting an impactful pass rusher that can come in and get us a couple sacks a season. I like that the Lions went out and are being aggressive, and they're getting a guy that they think can help the defensive line and help them get more pressures and more sacks on the quarterback. But I guess my big thing is, why now? Why not 7 weeks ago? Why not 8 weeks ago when we could have signed Everson Griffen in free agency? That's my big thing is, if we wanted Everson Griffen, we should have got him in free agency. If we wanted Everson Griffen, we should have just paid him the money then, because then we'd have an extra pick, we'd have extra draft capital, and we would have more room to maneuver and go make trades. And who knows, maybe he makes a play or two in every other game for the Detroit Lions, and maybe we're 4-2. Heck, maybe we're even 5-1 at this point if we have Everson Griffen for the entire season. As I said, Griffen is a fantastic player. He's a veteran of the NFL. He knows how to get to the quarterback. He's back in a division he knows all too well, a division that he has terrorized for the last decade or so. And I think that this is a good move. I think this is a good addition to the team for sure. He's going to play in 9 games for the Detroit Lions, so over half the season. He still has a lot of opportunity to go out and get some pressures, get some sacks for this Lions team. And his first game is going to be against the Minnesota Vikings, so he's going to be playing extra hard in that game to get a little bit of revenge. And I think that Everson Griffen will be a good addition. I think he will get some pressures. I think he will get some sacks. I think he will make everybody else on that defensive line a little bit better, because now you have just that one extra weapon to rotate around. You have that one extra weapon that offensive lines have to worry about. So I think that this helps Everson Griffen. I think he's in a better situation now than he was in Dallas. And I think that Everson Griffen helps out everybody else, because now you have that extra body to worry about. And even if it's a rotational guy, right, that keeps Trey Flowers a little fresher, that keeps Romeo Okwara a little fresher, that keeps that keeps Deshaun Hand a little fresher, and that gives you more opportunity to rotate guys, to do some extra things, to run a little bit more stunts, to be a little bit more aggressive, and probably run a little bit more 4-man fronts and not have to blitz as much, because you have extra guys and fresher guys in there that can get more consistent pressure on the quarterback. I don't think the Lions are done either. I think the Lions are going to make more moves. I think they're going to make more trades. If the Detroit Lions are truly committed to winning, and Matt Patricia truly thinks that he needs to make the playoffs in order to keep his job, which seems to be the case, I don't think the Lions are quite done trading. I don't think they're quite done buying other players. We could very well see the Detroit Lions go out and get a guy like Quinnen Williams, or maybe go out and get a guy like Stephon Gilmore, maybe to boost this secondary even more, and add a former Patriot, or add a current Patriot that knows a good system and knows how to play really good man coverage, and is obviously the former defensive player of the year. I don't think the Lions are done buying. I think there's a good chance that they go out and maybe get a Miles Jack. Maybe they go out and make another splash move and get Quinnen Williams or Stephon Gilmore, like I said. Or maybe they go out and get another defensive lineman like a Ryan Kerrigan or somebody else at a pass rushing position. There's a lot of ways the Lions can go in this trade deadline. And based on what I've seen, based on, the fact that Matt Patricia's job rides on this season and he has to make the playoffs, I don't think the Lions are quite done buying players. I don't think they're quite done getting players. And before this deadline is over, before November 2nd or November 3rd, whenever that deadline does hit, I would not be surprised if we see the Lions make another splash trade. And, when that comes around, if that comes around, obviously I will make another video on it and show my opinions on it. But I don't think the team is done buying. And personally, I like the aggressiveness. I like the fact that this team is all in. I like the fact that, obviously I talked yesterday about how good this defense has been. Adding Everson Griffen is only going to make this defense better. Adding Everson Griffen is only going to help. And buying players, even if it's giving up a couple other players, even if it's like, hey, we'll give you Jared Davis if you want to give us somebody somebody else. Like, we'll give you Jared Davis and, you know, a late round pick, maybe a 5th or a 4th, and you give us Miles Jack. Like, if we can, you know, move some guys around, if we can add some more talent to this team to make this team a lot better, I think that it's a good thing. You know, I don't mind us bringing in talent, even if it is like a 1 or 2 year rental, like Everson Griffen, or whether it be a young guy like Quinnen Williams who can play for the next decade for your team. You know, I think the Lions are not done buying. I think they'll go out and get more guys, and I think that this team, and I think the team will look very different come November 3rd when that trade deadline does hit. So, with all that being said, though, that is all I have for you guys today. What do you guys think about this trade for Everson Griffen? Do you like it? Do you not like it? What are your opinions on it? You know, let me know that down in the comments below. But with all that being said, if there's no Lions news before tomorrow, then that is all I have for you guys today. If there is Lions news, then I will obviously make a video letting every single person know. But until then, that is all I got for you guys right now. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you all tomorrow with more Lions content. Bye, guys.